I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Bad times are coming, and I reap what I done sown.
The 4th of July. The 4th of July. A day covered in colonized disguise, teaching us, brainwashing us that we don't need each other to survive. By the cult of independence, so crucial to the success of the capitalist lies that steal Mama Earth, our air, our water, and lead to the test, arrest, and death of our black, brown, and indigenous babies, sons, and daughters. These lies are necessary to keep extractive industries going and blood-stained dollars continuously flowing. So what is interdependence? The opposite of independence. The recognition that we are all connected, not just for a day on the 4th of July, but for life. That we actually all need each other to not only survive, but more importantly, to thrive. That we are kept enmeshed in a blur of independence. That we are told, taught, that only worrying about our own happiness and so-called success is a barometer for sanity, and our lack of reliance on each other is what we need to survive and strive for humanity. But cults are to be questioned and not destined. Cults are to be questioned and not destined. So today's podcast from a poverty scholar is dedicated to all the conscious listeners who know something ain't right with this separation nation lie. Also, disclaimer, as poverty scholars, reminding you we teach through word, prayer, song, poetry. So bear witness, sit in this, and listen. Listen in. First, it must be stated that there is a multi-billion-dollar industry built on our unquestioning belief of these cult of independence lies. Industries like the Western Therapeutic Industrial Complex, in tandem with the pharmaceutical industry, which has us all believing heteropatriarchal lies about our mamas being at the core of our collective psychosis. Shout out to Mama D and her original theory of motherism launched in Volume 4 of Poor Magazine. The drugs you have to take to be okay with all the pain of separateness from your mama and the people who made you. Because colonizers don't all come with pockets sewn on with colonizer dollars. Colonizer comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors, spewing words like healing, art, and I'm here to help release your inner child. Age grade separated schools and therapy to take you away from their colonizer-named problems, like your ancestors' traditions, spirit, and knowledge. Colonizers turn struggle into a pill that can heal, medicine into a product, and feeling good into poison with names like whiskey and beer. Excerpt from my Colonizer poem. And then beyond you and your lied to mind is the hard work of looking back, looking down, and looking carefully from side to side. In other words, the ways we are all taught the violent act of looking away, the tacit investment, demand, and complicit involvement in the Individuation Nation, the function and daily acceptance of colonizer borders and papers to show you are someone legitimate. Mine is a story of survival, common to many families subsisting in poverty all over the world. Mama was a poor woman of color who was one paycheck away from the street. When she lost her job, became disabled, it was necessary I drop out of institutional school in the 6th grade at age 11 so I could work to support us. And contrary to Western U.S. capitalist standards, where healthy families are made up of individuals whose personal advancement and fulfillment are considered paramount, I am honored that I could help my family, mi familia, that I could help my mama. And like poor children all over the world, I'm aware that without my help, she would not have made it. Without her help, I would not have made it. I learned by default that the core concept of interdependence is sacrifice. Sacrifice not for oneself, but for others. Not in a minimal time limited, I gotta go on with my life. You were holding on to me, holding me up, or just plain holding me kind of way. But in a selfless, I love you, you raised me, you are my elder, my child, I am there for you. These values didn't come to me easily. For the first part of my life, I was raised on U.S. media, U.S. schools, watched and learned revisionist, Eurocentric history perpetrating U.S. values of independence, ageism, separation, and individualism. It wasn't till in my 20s when I was blessed to audit with scholars in ethnic studies, thanks to my mama, that I began to articulate my values about family and togetherness, eldership and caregiving, to realize that my struggle to care for my family by any means necessary could be viewed as resistance and heroism, or just plain normal. Everything began to be redefined, rooted out, and examined, especially notions of so-called mental and community health. I re-examined my own organic decision to take care of my mama as an adult within new contexts. From a Western psychotherapeutic industrial perspective, my mama suffered from a mental illness. But from the perspective of almost every non-Western culture, from Asia to Africa and all in between, nobody is ever left alone the way they are in these United Snakes. Here, aloneness, the cult of independence, is valued as a virtue, a strength, a form of normalcy, a barometer for sanity. Whereas in other cultures, togetherness, the group, the collective is the norm. So from a non-Western belief system or deep structure, as my mama used to quote from Black psychology, did my mama really have a mental illness? Was there even such an illness at all? Or did we as a society have an illness and a twisted notion of what sanity was? Perhaps my mama's only problem was that we had no extended family. We had no family at all. Which is why we teach interdependence as a theory of change at Poor Magazine. Why we launched it with the Declaration of Interdependence in 2009 when we first launched the Manifesto for Change, which led to the reality in progress that is the Bank of Community Reparations and the role of folks with race and class privilege or reparators to lift up, stand alongside, listen to, and lead with the solutions, the theory of poverty scholarship, which then continued on to manifest the progress of homefulness, a interdependent, intentional self-determination, a homeless people's solution to homelessness. Interdependence challenges everything we are taught. Everything about the care of our children and elders, the efficacy and need for the elder care industrial complex, and the awareness of the peoples who made us, love us. It challenges the colonizer lie of discovery and lines in the sands on Mama Earth that separate some of us from all of us. It challenges the buying and selling of Mama Earth in the first place, and the implicit exploitation needed to make capitalism not only function, but successfully steal and pillage with all of our complicit involvement, our accessories to this theft. It challenges the history of how people are poor, and how could poverty even exist in these places with so much hoarded in so few people's hands. Interdependence is in all of our post-colonial indigenous peoples, and actually in all of our human DNAs, but urgently necessary for people who practice, believe, or blindly, confusedly follow capitalism to get rid of. The belief that someone else is better suited to take care of our elders, our children, the ideas that connectedness itself and the time it takes to care for each other is seen as a bother and much more efficiently farmed out to others, that our time is so valuably spent in the pursuit of dollars and capital rather than love and caregiving. And the fact that it is easier to pay for the solving of issues rather than sacrifice the loss of possible bloodstained dollars. In the end, U.S.-born and bred, post-colonized, capitalized indigenous peoples and colonizer-born peoples have been living with this lie for centuries. The unlearning is complex and not overnight. It is what we teach at People School, at Poor Magazine. It is what we live and walk at Homefulness. But in the end, it is not just a beautiful word that sounds good rolling off our dehydrated, colonized tongues. It is the commitment to 365 days of interdependence per Gregorian colonizer year calendar that is urgently needed in this increasingly soul-destroying and colonizer-lying times. It is why we renamed the 4th of July Interdependence Day. It is why we humbly teach and share, even with fellow organizers and newly woke folks, to look beside and behind you before you step into an arena of movement building for the histories and the peoples, the genocide and the resistance that came before you and that is already there. And it is why we celebrated it by refusing to believe, accept, or maintain the plantation prisons, the concentration camps where they have our babies, our migrante indigenous children and families. And it is why we celebrated with interdependent, interconnected, all nations, all generations prayer. So happy Interdependence Day, week, month, and year. Happy interdependence life. Stay strong and stay committed in this new kind of thrive. For more information about People School at Homefulness, or to book a teaching, sharing session on poverty scholarship at your school, organization, or church, email poormag@gmail.com or go online to www.racepovertymediajustice.org to get a copy of Poor Magazine Volume 4 Mother's Issue, or any of the beautiful Poor Press curriculum, including the soon-to-be-released People's Textbook, Poverty Scholarship. Go online to poorpress.net. And most of all, again, stay committed to things that you have been taught that you don't need to worry about. Question the destined and the cult of independence nation.